Good afternoon, everybody. We are live, and I'm going to give everybody about a minute to head in. Today, big idea here. Are histamines just about allergies and hay fever? Well, we're going to rip the band aid off that one because you and I already know it's not. And the question really is how is it, not is it linked, but how is it linked with some of the common chronic illnesses, symptoms that we're dealing with, or even mystery illnesses like POTS, dysautonomia, long haul, IBS, autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, you name it. Well, I can't wait to dig into that today. So, without further ado, here we go, everybody. Hey, everybody, welcome to today's Table Talk Live. I'm Dr. Maggie Yu. I am an actively practicing family medicine and functional medicine MD with 28 years of medical practice. And I work with people with seemingly impossible to solve medical problems like POTS, dysautonomia, long haul, autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, neuropathies, you name it. And, you know, the reason that I stumbled upon this is because I've had all of these things. And so over the past 28 years of my career, I not only had to solve these problems for myself, but once I figured out what were some of the underlying real problems were, what were the real reasons that was causing them, and I figured out how to solve it for myself. It's this Maya Angelou quote that says, when you know better, you do better. So I know better. And one of the things that I know better and a lot about is this whole issue around histamines. I would love everybody who's watching right now. Can you give me a boom in chat? And here's the thing: I'm watching the comments right now, and I check in everybody. Cynthia, great to see you. Oh, I can't wait to start working with you, Cynthia. All these names that are popping in. Thank you. Tell me where you're watching from. And here's the thing: your doctor may think that histamines is just about allergies or hay fever. Your allergist might think it's just all about anaphylactic allergies. And you already know or suspect that there's way more to histamines than meets the eye. I want to ask you a question. How do you think, or do you think histamines are connected with any of your symptoms or diagnosis? If you do, just pop it in chat and tell me what that is. I work with, and my audience is incredibly smart. And I can tell you right now, every person we talk to usually is smarter than the last 10 doctors combined, knowing more about your own condition than they do. And that is the reality. Boom from Michigan, Laura Z. Thank you. Another person I can't wait to start working with. So many of you, we just did a hormone takedown last week. How many of you were at the hormone takedown workshop that I did on Thursday night? If you were at the hormone takedown, let me know and give me and the audience some feedback. What was that experience like? Because you know what? I was pumped. I was jazzed. I had the best time. Talk about an intelligent audience there, an appreciative audience. The hormone takedown last week was freaking amazing. And we went about how hormones were connected to some of these chronic disease states, right? Lori says, she says, I'm certain histamines have so much to do with my health issues. Yeah. And get specific, guys, right? Tell me, like, what specific health issues you have going on. We're going to talk about it. So think about this. Is this you? And in some ways, this is normally me. A lot of people are like, what do you mean histamines? Well, have you had, I'm 55 right now, and I remember, and I think about the progression. And I always tell people, when you start listening to me and some of the connections I'm making, and you start looking back at your own life and maybe even looking at your children's life, you start to see clues and you start to see, wow, these problems started a long time ago. And I think about, as a child myself, having chronic constipation, right? As a teenager, having depression, anxiety. And then later on, when I was having cycles, really, periods that were very heavy with PMDD, like a lot of PMS type symptoms, pain, swelling. How about migraines and headaches, right? And then how many people after the birth of your child notice that you start developing problems with thyroid, autoimmune, joints, swelling, right? How many people have IBS? And how many people think and know that your IBS is BS? It is a what I call trash diagnoses, meaning that when doctors don't know what's causing it, they call it IBS, which is why I call it BS. And today we're actually going to connect the dots with, and I haven't even gone to POTS, long haul, dysautonomia, and autoimmune disease. Am I talking to you? Now, in this group, you notice that certain exposures, environmental, that you may not even able to explain, and a lot of times eating food. And I'm not talking any food, even food last week was just fine, but this week when you eat it, you notice you get worsening of what? The nerve pain? How's that possible? Food can't possibly be linked with your nerve pain, can it? Says your neurologist, right? And some of you notice that, when you, and this is the interesting thing, people will notice that, you know, things that never bothered them before with food, all of a sudden this week is causing, for example, gas, bloating, or diarrhea. But next week, you won't be. And you start to think you're a little cuckoo because your doctor starts to tell you a little cuckoo. You also start to notice mysterious rashes that come and go, redness, swelling, sometimes mouth ulcers. Some people's tongue start to develop what they call geographic tongue. Does anyone know what geographic tongue is? Type it in chat. And how many people think who are celiac that this is just a celiac and a gluten problem for celiacs? It's just all about gluten and it's just about a celiac, if you're a celiac or not. But your reactions have actually nothing to do with gluten, you think, or do you know? Right? So this is a very common scenario that I am finding more and more millions of people actually getting into, where they're starting to think some of these reactions feel allergic, meaning there's swelling, there's redness, sometimes there's itching, sometimes there's reactions around the mouth, but there's all these unrelated, seemingly unrelated reactions all over the body. And they're going to a specialist after specialist after specialist. And when you start seeing this on this video, or as you're doing the research and you're like, wow, histamines and mast cell activation and histamines is a thing, you go and ask your medical doctor. And the allergist says, we'll do a skin test on a couple things. No, you don't have any allergies to anything. You're fine. Go away. But you know it is a problem. You know it, right? So this is a really common scenario. Star Bliss says, have the symptom listed in the chat. I have experience. Boom. Thank you. I want to validate every single person here because your symptoms are real. And I'm going to also tell you and show you exactly how they are linked to problems with histamines. And histamines are not just an allergy thing. Okay. Thank you. Lori mentioned geographic tongue. So many things. Do you guys know what geographic tongue is? How many people know what that is? Type it in chat. Geographic tongue, literally, when you stick out your tongue, it looks like a map because there's an edge to it, almost like an ocean with continents. So when you look at it and you stick out your tongue, it looks like a map. This discoloration with edges all around the tongue and patchiness throughout the tongue, making it look like a map, is called geographic tongue. Geographic tongue is really prominent, and it's a reaction of your gut cells to, guess what? A problem with your immune system. And your immune system is responsible for allergies and histamines. So geographic tongue is not just a ho-hum, how interesting, or oh, you're weird. Geographic tongue is actually much higher in individuals with histamine problems and immune system problems. So they're not to be missed. It's like a really important clinical sign. Now, everybody, what are histamines? Histamines is we know it as an immune messenger, meaning that when you have ingest something or environmentally something comes in and your body looks at it and says, you don't belong here, you will have cells in your body called mast cells that are floating around your bloodstream. It sees these things that it thinks are foreign and that your body no likey. And then it goes, identifies them, and then it starts to release and makes a lot of histamines. Histamines is locally released around anywhere that allergen presents itself. And histamines then is a signal. It becomes a signal to the rest of your body that there is stranger danger in this area. And it activates a whole cascade of effects all throughout your body. Okay? Now, here's a really important thing. Histamine isn't just an immune messenger. It's also a brain neurotransmitter. What that means is it acts and is a brain hormone. So I'm going to ask out here, how many people notice that when these reactions happen, you start to feel palpitations, you start to feel like your heart is racing, you start to feel dizzy, you start to hyperventilate, or you feel like you're an anxious mess, you're like having a panic attack. But you're like, I'm not an anxious person, have never been before, but it's causing me to be anxious. And how many people notice brain fog associated with these episodes? It's like suddenly I lost my train of thought. I've had histamine flares like that where on air, it looks like I lost my train of thought. Okay. And can that and is that associated with histamine levels in the brain? And the answer is yes, yes, and heck yes. It can cause depression. It can cause feeling almost like you're bipolar with swings of mood, right? Tammy, thank you. Right. And if I'm talking to you about it, and vertigo, Jill mentioned vertigo, dizziness, right? So if your brain hormones in your brain are not in the right amounts or working properly, can that also signal dizziness? And the answer is yes. Now, I want to show you guys an image of something here. And I just want to show you an image of what a histamine mast cell looks like. So, a little science here. And that is a mast cell right there in the purple right there. And on the surface of the mast cells are these little receptors, little cups with which food particles or environmental allergens will come in contact with it. And it sends a signal to your mast cells that says, this doesn't belong here, your body no like you. Okay. And then the mast cell will then make millions and millions of particles of histamines and they degranulate. They basically come out of the mast cell along to all over your body. This can happen everywhere in your body. Now, think about this. I want to show you through this image all the different places that histamines can act. To your allergist, histamine only acts on the allergy system. So if you ain't sneezing, you ain't having runny eyes or asthma or eczema with this, you don't have a problem. It's not a histamine problem. Well, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And unfortunately, allergists are just trained in that little area on the left that says allergy symptoms, and that what they think is the typical an allergy symptom in the regular medical doctor world. So, for all of you, take a look at inflammation. Okay, up in the right upper corner says inflammation. How many people notice that when seemingly randomly have swelling around the neck? Have swelling around the joints or have redness. How many people get some redness around their face, seemingly when they eat certain foods or expose to certain environmental allergens or live in an environment maybe that's moldy, and you notice that sometimes certain pollens are floating through. You'll notice that there truly is swelling in your fingers, your joints, right? Even your neck, your face. There is visible swelling. And who did I talk to? Oh my gosh, I was talking to Sarah, and she mentioned that when we discovered one of the culprits for her histamine reactions, one of the food culprits, she looked like she lost 10 pounds in weight, and that was on her face. And people kept going up to her saying, Sarah, did you lose weight? Sarah might be in chat even right now. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Sarah, did you lose weight? Did you lose weight? She didn't lose weight, but what she lost was about 10 pounds of inflammation weight, looking weight around the head and neck. And visibly, you could see the difference on her screen from 2 weeks before and now. And that's the level of inflammation and swelling that was in this area, because her body, in Sarah's case, it was gluten. Her body saw the gluten as the German was like, oh my God. And it was raising the histamine levels, and it was just causing a lot of swelling here. So even in the area that we're talking about with inflammation here, you could see how having these elevated histamines is associated with swelling anywhere in the body. And can you guys see how swelling could be associated with pain, right? How many people have swelling in joints and that they notice can cause pain, right? So think about that. If you have leg swelling, foot swelling, anytime you didn't injure the leg, but both legs are swollen, that is inflammation. Okay. And histamines, when it gets into the tissue, when there's millions of particles of histamines, let's say around, you're exposed to in food, the histamines travel then throughout the rest of your body, and it draws in water and other cells in your body that says, I'm going to try to get rid of this histamine. There's a lot of activity histamines activate because it's literally like a fire alarm in every room in your house. So when a fire alarm rings in one room of the house, everybody else is like, there's a fire in that room. We got to deal with it. And it's a central fire alarm system. That's what histamines is built for. But I want to point something out, okay? We're going to talk more here, okay? Which is like, look at the section where we're talking about cardiovascular. And let's talk about cardiovascular. How many people notice that their blood pressure can fluctuate up and down really wildly? How many people notice that the heart rate can go really fast, really slow, up and down? How many people wake up in the middle of the night with their heart racing, right? How many people have an autoimmune condition called Raynaud's, where that your fingers and toes can turn white or blue or painful with temperature changes, right? These are all related to histamines. So histamine is what we call a vasodilator. It can dilate blood vessels. This is why it can cause swelling. So the way that it can cause swelling in a certain area is because a lot of histamines in the area causes the area to get your blood vessels to get leaky and swell so that a lot of fluid comes out into the artery, into the muscular space and the fascia. So that's one of the mechanisms of histamine. It causes kind of leaky arteries. Okay. And so it also, as a result of what is happening with the arteries, can lower blood pressure, but then your body's going to want to fight it and will try to raise it with adrenaline and other hormones. So there's this back and forth with histamines that will cause a lot of, guess what? Blood pressure variations. Histamine on the heart causes fast heart rate. So what does this sound like? Like, how many people here have these blood pressure swings, can have these heart rate changes, also can have vertigo, where when you sit up, when you lay down, even if you're driving and turning your head, gets dizzy? And now know and already suspect that this has something to do with food and histamines. Raise your hand. Do you think, all of you out there with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, dysautonomia, which is another nervous system disorder where it's all these dizziness, heart rate changes, right? Nausea, right? Long haul. How many people only after COVID and long haul started to experience these kinds of symptoms, whether it's inflammation and swelling, or whether it's cardiovascular with blood pressure, dizziness, POTS or dysautonomia? Type it in chat. Okay. This is not a small deal on the cardiovascular system. This is a big deal on the cardiovascular system. And I haven't even gotten into the nerves and the nervous system. Okay. We mentioned the brain and it's a brain hormone, but how does histamines behave around nerves? And I'm going to ask everybody here that knows what I'm talking about when I say neuropathy, type it in chat. Okay. When I say neuropathy, do you know what that is? Okay. Neuropathy is the doctor's splaining of pain in nerves that usually they can't explain the cause of. And then they call it neuropathy. And in fact, in the medical MD world, most neuropathies are idiopathic. I love the word idiopathic because it sounds like idiocy. And what it is it's the idiot-splaining of a symptom that they don't know what is the real problem is what's causing it. One of the main causes of neuropathy, meaning pain in the nerves, is actually histamines. Okay. And what happens is this: if you have a lot of histamines around nerves, remember I was telling you that a lot of histamines causes the area to be really leaky. Okay. It causes swelling, fluid exchange. The cell membrane on cell walls get leaky cell membrane. So it does that to nerves. So you ever notice that if you have swelling in a certain area, you have redness in a certain area, it hurts. And some people, you don't even need to have that swelling or anything. Your nerves can always hurt. Or you notice after consuming certain foods this week, it hurts, but next week it doesn't, right? There's a histamine mechanism on nerves where it causes leakiness in the cell wall of nerves. And that's one of the mechanisms of how histamines causes neuropathy, meaning damage to these nerves and pain. Okay. So you betcha food and hyperhistamine release or sensitivity to it is one of the underlying triggers of neuropathies. And it's not just nerves, it can be doing that same thing to tendons, to muscles. Think fibromyalgia. And those of you with autoimmune diseases like Sjogren's, like lupus, how many people have chronic pain from an autoimmune condition? PMR even, like type it in chat, right? Now, I'm going to make a connection here of how histamines and autoimmune conditions go hand in hand like bosom buddies, okay? And the reason is, think about the immune system and the different branches of an immune system, right? And by the way, start popping your questions in chat because our team is collecting them and I want to answer them. So tell me about you. Tell me about your case. What's going on? Any questions you have? I'm going to collect those questions, and later on, I'm going to answer it. I will be picking your questions, right? So stick around, okay? And give me some heads up on those questions, right? So think about the immune system with multiple branches. You know how in let's say in the military, we have like the Air Force branch, the Navy branch, and the Army branch. The immune system have these branches like that as well. Okay. And one of the branches of the immune system is the allergy branch. The allergy branch. Okay. Think about that as the Air Force. Allergy branch is part of the mast cells are over at the allergy branch. It's the Air Force. It's here to quickly identify a problem, send a flare up, let everybody know what the hell's going on. That's the allergy branch of your immune system, one of the branches, right? Another branch of the immune system would be the branch that is supposed to look and identify germs and infection and try to kill it, right? That's another branch, the infection killing branch, right? However, in autoimmune disease, the infection killing branch of it, like instead of looking at a germ that says you're a germ, I'm going to kill you, the immune system on that branch has a problem. It is mistakenly identifying your own body as a germ. Let's say in Hashimoto's, because Jill asked a great question. What does histamines have to do with Hashimoto's and how does that impact each other? Well, if her immune system, Jill's immune system, how many people have Hashimoto's where your immune system looks at your thyroid, says you're a germ and I'm going to hurt you? And if you have lupus, it looks at your DNA in your body or your lungs and says you're a germ and I'm going to kill you. If you have ankylosing spondylosis, it looks at your joints in your spine and says you're a germ and I'm going to kill you. This is a branch of your immune system that's supposed to be identifying germs and killing them. But instead, it looks at your body and says, you're a germ and I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to attack you. I need to get rid of you. That's an autoimmune disease. That's a very important branch of the immune system. And this is why if you have one branch, the Air Force branch, which is the allergy branch, flaring like crazy and going nuts, the other branches are trying to ratchet up to try to say, what the heck is going on? I need to help the situation. Okay. And so what I see all the time is that in these scenarios, when there is a lot of histamine release, people with any autoimmune disease will see an increase in the target of that branch of the military of their immune system, whatever the target is. So if you have a histamine problem, your Hashimoto's will be way worse. If you have a histamine flare and you have lupus, your lupus flare will start to flare. Okay. Does this make sense that there's like, it's basically like, like different branches of military springing up to action. But the histamine and the allergy branch is always first because it's the fastest. It's the fastest and it needs to be. Okay. Because it has to identify foreign invaders quickly, possibly. Allergic branch, right? So it can rev up the infectious branch. There's also branches of the immune system that is also surveying for cancer. So let me show you an important, interesting connection, okay? So there's another branch of your immune system that says, there's multiple branches, by the way, 40 some odd branches at least. But there's a branch of the immune system that says it's going around in your body looking for cancer cells, and it says you're a cancer cell, and I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna clear you of cancer. So I want to show you something that on this slide, under the downstream effects, is the word cancer. Okay, so how are histamines related to cancer? Well, here's what happens. The branch is supposed to go around your body and actually look for cancer cells and destroy it. What happens is when you have the allergy branch going crazy, when you have the infection branch going crazy everywhere, the branch that's supposed to be sitting here working properly all day long, surveying for cancer cells and getting rid of them, they don't have the energy, the resources to actually do their job. So what you find is these two branches are going nuts and this third branch is neglected. So the activity of that branch to protect you from cancer goes down, which means more cancer. This is why people with histamine issues, this is why people with autoimmune disease, this is me, okay? I'm talking about myself. We have a much higher risk of cancer. And the reason being is the other branches of that immune system is really it's being very hyper triggered and dysregulated. So the branches that should be doing their job don't even have the energy to do that. Mitochondrial, the energy activity to do that. And this is really important for you to understand because we're going to be talking about how you would solve a problem like this, right? And I want to point out a couple other things. We talked about the central nervous system with the brain, with it acting as a brain hormone. We also talked about, I want to talk about uterus and hormones for a second, okay? Because I just did a whole hormone takedown where I connected hormones to everything. But I want to connect the dot right now where people with a lot of histamine issues have a lot of hormone issues. And if you understand that, tell me yes and tell me how, right? Um, yeah. Um, Gosh, so many good questions here. This is really great. So hormones, right? How hormones linked with histamines. So it's been studied. Scientific mechanism is that when there's a lot of histamines in your body, it actually can, in one study, raise the amount of estrogen in your uterus. Okay. Bad. If you have too much estrogen in your body, anywhere in your body, that's bad juju. Okay. So high histamines, and there's a lot of mechanisms to it that I don't want to get into that is very complex, but it involves your liver. But if there's a lot of histamines, your liver is working overtime to really try to break down the histamines, then it doesn't break down your estrogen either. So not only are you making more estrogen when there's histamine around, but your ability to break it down is really hampered because your liver is really stuck trying to break down histamines and it's being flooded over and over again. So who suffers? Lots and lots of hormones that build up. In the hormone takedown, I talked about a syndrome that nobody else has talked about because I named it, I coined it, I'm describing it, and it's called trapdoor syndrome. In trapdoor syndrome with hormones, it's like this analogy where you make hormones and you're filling a bathtub with it. That's the bathtub is the active area of hormones. And then your liver and your intestines are supposed to break down hormones. That's the drain that releases it out of the bathtub. And that in the middle is where the equilibrium is, where the hormones are active. But in a trapdoor syndrome, in this particular case with histamines and with hormones, if there's just a flood of histamines and your liver is working so hard to break down these histamines, you are essentially creating a trapdoor for toxins and hormones in your body, and it builds up and you feel shittier and shittier. And you have more and more hormones that are building up, causing crazy hormone havoc. And we already know when hormones are really out of balance, it triggers autoimmune disease, it triggers POTS, it triggers chronic pain, fibromyalgia. So was that too much? I mean, and is that making connections for you? Ding, 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 right? Star bliss. Yes. Oh my, thank you. Right. And so here's the thing is that that's just one impact histamines can have hormones of hundreds of different mechanisms. When I work with people with hormones, there are over 100 patterns, of which several of these patterns can be related with a histamine problem. So I think Amelia has said, well, why do I have low estrogen then? And here's the thing, I don't even take what she says or she's been told as low estrogen as even low estrogen because people don't even, doctors don't understand what I call one of the patterns is estrogen dominance. And people are erroneously told they have low estrogen all the time. So I don't want to go into a big hormone thing, but I'm going to tell you right now is that there are many different types of impact that histamines can have hormones, and doctors have no clue what they're talking about. They're doing the wrong test. They don't understand these patterns, and they're telling you BS. So not only is IBS BS, but hormone management out there is non-existent and bad and BS. And so I talked about that in the hormone takedown, but great question. Truly great question. And it really highlights just how much misunderstanding out there doctors have around hormones and histamines. All right. So now a couple things. I wanted to talk about how, now is everyone clear here that you suspect how many people suspect or know they have a histamine problem? Type it in chat because I want to see what the level of awareness here is. I talk to many people I work with as we're working with them, whether it's on their hormones or in their digestion and food mapping, for example, we're actually talking about histamines for the first time and they and their doctor has never heard of it. But I'm wondering, like, is this the first time you've heard about it? Or is this one of those things you already knew? How many people here have confirmed diagnoses, for example, of mast cell or histamine intolerance? How many people suspect it? Put it in chat, right? Yeah, right. And Star says, I know whether it's being acknowledged or not. And Lana, thank you. You have all the symptoms. And you don't have to prove it to me because we're speaking the same language here. And I am describing this problem just as good, if not better than you. And so it's really important for you to start trusting yourself when it looks like a duck quacks like a duck, it is a duck. And I'm telling you that. Okay. So really importantly, a couple things. There are a lot of barriers to diagnosis for histamine problems. And the reason being is the blood tests suck. All the blood tests fluctuate wildly day to day. And the doctors who are ordering some of these blood tests, like your allergist, are erroneously telling people they don't have the problem and dismissing them even though they do. Okay. And so I'm going to tell you that from a diagnostic standpoint, if you're looking for a diagnosis, that's going to be an extremely challenging thing to be on that path because you will be down that rabbit hole for years and thousands of dollars of testing. Right. And I want you guys to really think about the history points that I pointed out, and also the symptoms that I've pointed out. And does this make scientific sense to you and logical sense? Right. Um, and I solve these problems. Of course, we solve these problems. When I look, and I'm just going to put it out there right now. If you're interested in having us take a look at your case and really go through and ask all the questions and do a 360 evaluation on it, see whether we can help with this problem with you, there's going to be a link in chat for you to do that. Okay. Because they're for a different, like, and Amelia pointed out too, like, why is my estrogen low? Well, I don't know if it's low. In fact, it's low. And are there other patterns that histamines are related to? Absolutely. And could there be multiple patterns at play with autoimmune disease or POTS and histamines that create combination patterns? Hell yes. Right. That gets me all excited. That's the genius I work with in our hormone program, for example. It is a hell of a lot of fun. And anybody who's been working with me in the hormone program would love to, if you can share in chat what insights and what changes you've had in chat. That'd be great, right? Now, the other part of this is, and what we're going into is some of the other thing that is underlyingly linked and related with histamines is going to be digestion and real food allergies. Okay. I have never met a person with mast cell, histamine, IBS, autoimmune disease. I've never met a person with POTS, fibromyalgia, any of these categories who didn't have a broken digestion system, meaning that several steps in their digestion or all the steps are really weak or broken. And I'm going to tell you right now, and you should write this down as a note. 100% of people with histamine problems have digestion problems. Okay. That's you. That's me. Okay. And think about this. Okay. And it's a really simple concept I've talked about, which is digestion is there to break down big pieces of food into little pieces. If food is really little, it's easy to absorb, your body likes it, and it's low allergen. Okay. If your digestion sucks, you're stuck with these big pieces of food and allergens. Your body looks at that and it says, ah! And it not only can't absorb it, but it really dislikes all the allergens on it and it starts sending mast cell to it. Okay. So poor digestion means big pieces of undigested food that have high allergy load means more allergy, more mast cell, more histamine. Capiche? Okay. Really simple answer here, right? So I'm going to talk about, and what happens is too, is over time, if you have these big allergens presented in high load over and over again, your body really does develop some real food allergies. Okay. Histamines isn't about non-real food problems. Okay. But it's a mixture of issues because number one is if you can't digest the food, you're going to have a lot of histamine. So it's a digestion related high histamine problem. At the same time, on the other side of this problem is because you don't digest food and you're exposed to high amount of allergen over and over again, your allergy system does develop real food allergens that your allergist cannot identify because they're only doing IgE skin tests or blood tests. That's not the type of reaction that's causing typical histamine reactions. So there are food allergies that your allergist cannot detect with their testing that are called food sensitivities that are real. That's the other 50% of this problem, both sides. So if you're going to be solving the problem medically of someone with a histamine problem, you got to attack it from both sides. One, we got to know exactly what steps in digestion are broken and fix it. If we don't, at least support every step. The other side of this is you got to have accurate testing with somebody who really knows what the heck they're doing with testing, with the best tests and the clear understanding of these results, because the results are darn confusing for doctors who don't do 1,000 of these a year. Okay. And because cases with histamine are really complex cases with a lot of autoimmune issues, history of COVID issues. So can that impact and change how the tests look? Absolutely. So is there a really skill set associated with understanding those results so that you 100% clear, you can identify what are the food allergens, what are not food allergens, and is the digestion problem, and boom, 50%, 50%, This is how you fix the problem. So from a medical root cause standpoint, this is a system I created called food mapping. And it is the most important, biggest first giant chunk for anybody dealing with histamine issues. If you want to learn more about that, I would definitely recommend you could type food mapping in chat, and we have a training series. And even go to YouTube. Go to YouTube and search my name and look under food mapping, or histamines and food mapping, or digestion and food mapping. 50 videos are going to show up because I've talked about this a lot. And this is a proven system that I have been working with for the last 28 years of my career. Okay. Now, from a supplement standpoint, I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to be looking at some questions here. And Jill, thank you for chiming in about your experience. So, yeah, I mean, I love the fact that because I have been working on this for 28 years, I do know what is proper testing. I do know everything about digestion and how to identify and fix the problems. This is critical. I don't want to waste your time. I really don't. That being said, I'm going to go to right now. Who wants to learn about supplementation? What are some supplementation things I can do right now? Type in chat. So we're going to go over some supplementation, okay? And this section of it, get ready to take some notes because nobody's going to teach you in like the science behind the why. And so I always tell people that when you know the why, the how becomes easy. So the last thing I want to do with a histamine person is put them in 40 supplement tablets every day for the next 30 days. And I can tell you right now, there's another program, there's a program that I won't name it's a very big program, the chiropractor, dealing with some of these issues. And in their program, there isn't even testing around this whole food mapping, not even ran by an MD. And here's the issue around that is that there's the phase 1 of their program. They put every single person in that program on 40 supplements. And most of these supplements have many ingredients. And so what do you think that does to people with mast cell histamine problems is that they have a lot of food intolerability problem, medication intolerability, and then supplement intolerability. They have poor digestion. They can't digest and break it down. And you give them 40 supplements every single day. What do you think that does actually to their histamines and to their allergies, right? So I just want to give you an idea of what the standard in traditional medicine is. Nothing bad care. This kind of people who are working in the mast cell and histamine areas, how they're running, what their recommendations are. I do not advocate for that at all whatsoever. I think it's really critical. When we're talking about supplementation for people with histamine issues is minimal number of ingredients, key ingredients in medicinal doses that does exactly what it says it is intended to do, period. Okay. So I want to start first with looking at the daily reset. Okay. I'd start with the daily reset on everybody. And the reason is it's simple. Okay. And it makes sense. Right in the middle is a product called Digested. Remember, I said 100% of people with mast cell and histamine and autoimmune and these chronic diseases have a digestion problem. So if you are not working with me to identify which step is broken, take Digested. Okay, just take Digested. And here's how you take it. 1 with small meals, 2 with big meals. Get that started right away because if you have these symptoms, you have these health problems, we already know your digestion is broken. Okay, so Digested has a minimal number of ingredients designed to cover every single step that's broken in digestion. It is the top selling product in the entire store and the most rebought because it works. Okay, so that's Digested right in the middle. Now, I bookend Digested. Boost Me is 2 in the morning, Restore Me is 2 at night. I'm going to talk about Boost Me for a second. Remember I said this whole trapdoor syndrome, which means that all these hormones and histamines and toxins are building up in your body and your liver is working so hard to break it down. And every person with histamine problems and hormone problems have really tired liver and large intestinal bacteria cells because they're flooded. They don't even have the capacity and the energy for the mitochondria. Mitochondria in every cell is the power plant. And so how many people even know what a mitochondria is? And how many people realize that they have a mitochondrial problem? And I'm just going to tell you something. COVID attacks the mitochondria, which is why people with COVID have chronic fatigue syndrome afterwards, which is why the key to solving COVID has to be working with clinicians who really understand the mitochondrial assault that happens. So Boost Me is a B complex designed for people with digestive problems so that it absorbs. And when you take it with digested, guarantees that it's digested, broke it down, activated, and absorbed. And those are the exact key vitamins and enzyme that activates the enzymes and what's called the electron transport chain in mitochondria, your power plant, to start revving up and start them working. So if you're like, I got a lot of histamines to break down, you better power your cells that break down histamines, i.e., your liver and your bacteria, to Boost Me 2 in the morning to give them the energy to start that process. Okay. And then at the end of the day is Restore Me, 2 of those at night. Okay. So Boost Me is 2 in the morning, take it with the digested. At night, before bed or with dinner, 2 of the Restore Me. Did you know there's a million reasons why magnesium is really mission critical? But I'm going to tell you, there's all different kinds of magnesium for different purposes, different purity, different dosages, different reasons. Okay. If we are dealing with histamine problems, you want this specific blend of magnesium that is in Restore Me 2 at night. This specific brand of magnesium designed to be, again, digested and absorbed. And it is designed not to stay in the intestines, which is the other 90% of magnesium on the market. It's designed to actually be the specific kind that crosses the gut-blood barrier, which means that it crosses it to go to what? It goes to your hormone-making cells, so you make hormones well. It actually goes to your mast cells, goes to your liver cells. The liver cells that actually break down histamines require that specific magnesium molecule to activate the DAO enzyme that breaks down histamines. It needs a ton of magnesium. So 100% of people with histamine problems have the specific magnesium deficiency, with which taking 2 of the Restore Me's at night, mission critical. This is why this is a 1, 2, 3 punch approach to dealing with mast cell, and it's the foundation of that pyramid. I want to make sure everybody who has, if you have questions around that, go ahead and type it in chat, right? And Stard said mitochondria is so important. Yeah, but really 99% of the population don't know what that is. And doctors know nothing, have no clue to understand mitochondrial disorders, which I deal with all the time, right? And so those are the 1, 2, 3 punch. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up is a product called Allergest. This is my go bag. Okay. I'm traveling tomorrow to go see my daughter in Los Angeles. And guess what's in my go bag? Is it has to be, well, obviously, these 3 products, but I never travel without Allergest. And the reason it's in my go bag is Allergest is very different than digested. And I need you guys to understand it, so you know how to use the right product for the right purpose. Allergest is specifically the digestion for certain specific allergens if you have accidental exposure. Let's say you already know gluten is a problem for you, but you have to go to a restaurant where they told you the pancakes were gluten-free. Yeah, but they made it on the same grill. They just made other people's glutinous pancakes, right? So it's really important, if you already know or you suspect that you're having exposure, Allergest is your friend, and it's not just for gluten. We're going to go through the list of proteins. Let me see if I can pull it up so I can see the list of different proteins that Allergest. Actually, it's not just gluten. So it's in my go bag, not just for gluten, but it is for, let's take a look, right? Sorry, I'm like having a hard time pulling it up on my screen. Yeah, if you actually read it, there's a link to the allergy collection. Yeah, on it, it actually says that it aids in decreasing the allergic reaction, the histamine release, basically, from, and remember this, write it down if any of this applies to you. If you know you have a problem with gluten, dairy, soy, egg, whey, casein, which are the proteins in dairy, almond, peanut, how many people have nut problem, right? Rice, pea protein, fish proteins, right? So that's a big basket. And how many people have issues with that? So have it in your go bag. And so if I know I have an exposure, I have a 4x4 rule. Okay. And the 4x4 rule, you can take it off, would be that you're going to take 4 pills for 4 days to quickly clear the allergens the moment that you know that you've been exposed. Okay. And a great example that I've talked about is I went to a British tea to have tea time. They have a gluten-free version and a gluten version. Husband across from me had the gluten version. I had the gluten-free version. I started to eat the crumpet. It tasted too good to be gluten-free. So I asked the waitress, hey, is this gluten-free? And she says, sorry, it has gluten. So even with the best of intention, right? And for my husband, he can't do dairy, for example. So for him, sometimes somebody will say, "Oh, this pie crust is gluten free and dairy free." But let's say, he will notice typically the very next day he has like flaking skin, and he'll be like, "Oh my gosh, that had dairy last night." So, a couple things. If the moment you know you've been exposed, whether it's right away, the walking glucometer that Dr. Maggie is, or it might be the next day, you start the 4 pills for 4 days rule right away. The other way to use Allergest is insurance. This is my medical insurance. So, if there's any meal I didn't make, any meal my husband knows that someone else made, even if they say it's gluten free or dairy free, insurance. Take 2 of the allergens with any meal you didn't make to ensure your own safety from some of these allergens that can cause histamines for you. So if you already know you have a problem with some of these foods, this must be in your go bag, and it's called Allergest. Okay. And Lori says, I've been looking for something like this. Yeah. And without it, I mean, when I am exposed to gluten the very next day, I have my whole left leg actually loses strength. I get numbness with the nerves over there. Literally, I walk around dragging my left leg for a week. That's, no thanks, no thanks, right? That's so Allergest, for anybody that already knows what foods is triggering this for them. This is your anecdote. This should be in your go bag. Okay. And then finally, I want to talk about a product called Histamine. And it does exactly what the product name says. It minimizes histamine. So what can minimize histamine is the DAO enzymes. Okay. So literally, if you're a person that doesn't have good activity of this enzyme, you may need support. Or if you're currently being flooded, you may just need more DAO support. So importantly, with histamine, we're talking about importantly very high doses of this particular ingredient and not a lot of anything else. So really importantly, if someone, and this is not something you have to take all the time, but if someone's in a histamine flare, like you're in a POTS and histamine flare, you're in a lupus and histamine flare, you're going to take this product because it's going to save your life. It's going to save your ass with this whole flare. And how I would tell somebody, and sometimes right in the beginning when I first start working with someone, I would be like, humor me, take the digested, 1 with small meals, 2 with big meals. But in the meantime, because your histamine reactions are so high right now, what we want to do is bring it down over the next couple weeks. That's how you use histamine, and take like 3 with each meal for the next 3 weeks. And what that's going to do is lower your histamine level with every meal. And histamine levels, when it's that high, takes a while to go down and takes a lot of DAO. So this is why we want to hit it hard. And so histamine really diminishes histamine. And it's for people with really big flares, or if you already notice that you're starting to have a reaction and the histamine's already loose, right? Histamine is, you could already feel the histamine swelling, scratching, itching, redness. You need a rescue right away. Take like 4 of these right away, and maybe in an hour or half an hour, take another 4, take another 4. I had someone take 20 from the time dinner before they went to bed, and that prevented a whole visit and an ER visit for them because they could already tell things were starting to get scratchy in their throat and things were already happening. So that's another way to use histamine is if you're getting early signs you're having a histamine reaction, really heavy dosing this almost every half an hour, every hour, until you feel the symptoms start to pull back. And then you could go down on it, would be the best way to use this particular product. So for me, like that's a histamine bundle right there. Like daily reset is something you do every day. But as far as in my regular go bag, always is going to be the digested, the Allergest, right? Digest I'm going to take with every meal, the Allergest with any meal I didn't make. And I have histamine here because if I already know I'm starting to have a reaction, I could already start to feel a little numbness in my left leg. Not only am I taking the Allergest to break down that protein faster, but I'm like right away, I can already feel some histamines happening. I'm gonna be taking 4 of these histamines, and then in about an hour later, be like, where am I at? I'm gonna take another 4 if I need it. So I want to give you some freedom to be able to understand how to use these supplements properly, and they work better then I'm just going to already tell you there are so many reasons why the current medication, whether it's over the counter or prescription approach to dealing with histamines, is very ineffective. But from the thousands of people that we've worked with, this type of utilizing the supplement protocol works better, can work better for a lot of people. But definitely, if you have a regimen that's working for you, that's medication, you may want to first try adding this on and seeing how you do. And then later on, as you're finding your symptoms improving, then you may be able to say, I don't need as much of this medication, or if at all anymore. I had somebody the other day who told me that they've been on Zyrtec 2 a day for the past 10 years. And it was actually last night. And she said, I haven't had a histamine reaction in 2 weeks. Dr. Maggie, is it okay if I start weaning down my Zyrtec? And all she was doing was digested and boost me and restore me. And, and all she did was start these supplements. And I said, yeah, like if you are having no reactions whatsoever and you feel great, that's the perfect time to then start lowering that Zyrtec and see how you do, keeping on the supplements for now, and see what that happens. So work with your doctor on how to do that, and start being able to play. But we don't play with histamine. We got to get histamine load to go down from intake of food to the breakdown of that food and allergens, to also really crash coursing the histamines that have already released. So does that give you guys a better understanding of like around how I use supplements to break the code and hack the code on really bringing down histamines fast? This is how I would do it. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of the questions here. Okay. Jill, I think I answered the question. How does histamine affect Hashimoto's and Sjogren's? Anytime histamines are high, the allergy immune system, the system for autoimmune attack goes crazy. So it will flare your histamines, your Sjogren's, your myasthenia. All of that will be a lot worse. So question answered. Thank you, Jill. Great question. And Tammy says, is histamine related to homocysteine? Great question. Histamine is, again, an immune messenger. It's also a brain neurotransmitter. Homocysteine is one of the blood tests that you can do in the blood, and it just measures how much inflammation is in the bloodstream in your body. Now, here's the kicker. His homocysteine tends to be high in people that have what I call the trapdoor syndrome. So if you're busy breaking down histamines or hormones, you don't have the energy or the cell capacity to break down homocysteine. So people with trapdoor syndrome, really occupied with histamine and hormones, typically can have a very high homocysteine. So that's the relationship. So just want to give that. Candy says, is MTHR related? 100%. So MTHR is one of the genes that's needed to be part of the process of breaking down histamines and toxins and hormones. So most of us here have MTHFR genes, genetics, where our enzymes for breaking down things like hormones or toxins or histamines are lower. So there's a genetic component why one person has more histamine and hormone problems than another. So absolutely it is related, super smart. And then another one right here, I think we answered this. How do you get a diagnosis? I'm struggling hard to find that. There ain't no cheese up that tube. If you want to keep going to see regular doctors or even functional doctors, testing for it is horrible. You don't need my best advice, Starbliss, is you don't need a diagnosis to start healing. If you just do nothing but implement everything that I said on this call, you're already going to get better. So do you need a diagnosis? Right? You're already going to see a difference. So to me, that is the desired outcome. So, that's the problem. People with these symptoms sometimes end up for years circling, trying to find a diagnosis. So but time is better spent educating yourself and doing something different. Do something different. And I answered Tammy's question about geographic tongue. Dina, good question. Dina, does Sjogren's disease happen from long haul? Yes, there's a ginormous link. I am a long haul expert, as well as autoimmune and POTS, for example. So all of these are related, right? So what is really interesting, and I mentioned in TikTok, I was going to answer this question. So it is really high level science. And so I'm going to make it very simple. The outside of the COVID virus has what's called spike proteins. They look like little spikes coming out of the cell. Okay. The spike proteins love to go and to your cells, all the different cells in your body, and attack the cell membrane on your cells. So the outside layer of your cells, and the spike protein attaches to the cell membrane and really causes little cuts on those cells all over the place. And so it causes leaky cell syndrome. Really, like this is a leaky cell syndrome, that spike protein long haul COVID infection on cells. Now, it loves to infect your immune cells. It loves to infect the cells with blood clotting. It loves to infect cells with the nerves and brain, right? And here's the kicker. When there are a lot of spike proteins and little cuts around the outside of cells, it triggers histamines like crazy. Your body hates looking at a ton of spike proteins. So one of the things it does is go crazy with histamines in reaction. So people with COVID infections that are susceptible have a ton of spike proteins all over different cells, affecting all different systems in their body, and so their histamines go nutso. And then even the immune system, looking at all these spike cells, go insane, saying, "Oh, danger, stranger, danger." And then the autoimmune system goes crazy, making autoimmune flares way worse because everything is overreacting. There's a fire alarm escalating in the whole body that's happening. Does that make sense, Dina? That is the best explanation you will ever get in tying these pieces together. I hope you record this. I hope watch a replay of this because you will never get a better explanation of that and someone who understands the connections around all this. So I love the fact that I do see this. And when I do see it, I love being able to explain it in a way that I hope all of you can understand. Okay. Next one is, this is Joanna's question. Can histamine hypersensitivity cause hypersensitivity to light and tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears? And I'm going to even add hearing loss. Yes, yes, and hell yes, because I already talked about histamines affecting nerves. Sensitivity to light and tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and hearing loss are nerves. Okay. High histamines causes around nerve cells, causes the nerve cell membrane to open up and swell and become leaky. So then you have leaky cells that are nerves that are really inflamed, hurting, sending electrical signals like crazy. So high histamine causes swelling in local areas, but also swelling and leaky nerve cells, causing that whole area to be irritated and painful. So chronically high histamine causes nerve problems like to light and causes nerve problems like ringing in the ears. And hearing is your nerves. So people can have permanent hearing loss and decreased hearing over time because of high histamine. So can food and high histamines cause tinnitus and hearing loss? Yes. Is that you? You need food mapping. Okay. So that's the connection. And I know I'm the only doctor who's going to be making that connection and explaining in this way. Joanna, please listen. And I hope you understand that. And I hope that was explained in a way for everyone to understand. Did I miss? Let's see. Next question. Can TBI concussion make all my AI symptoms worse? Yes, yes, yes. Why do I have low estrogen and food allergy and histamine problems from Amelia? I answered that because there's many different types of patterns that can be. Troy says back pain and puffy eyes. Is that histamine? Well, absolutely. There's an aspect of histamine there, but even deeper, what's causing the histamine to be so high that you have chronic pain and puffiness and swelling, right? And immediately I'm looking at Troy's case and I'm sitting here thinking, what's going on with his digestion? What's going on with his food mapping and food sensitivities? And what is happening with Troy's hormones, right? There are so many opportunities right there in that question. I'm just like, let me get at them. I love this. Great question. Thank you. And then Starred Bliss says, what can I use to get the weight down, right? And a lot of weight is inflammation and hormonal, right? I use so many things and I'm not getting anywhere. But weight has multiple reasons. In Sarah's case, a lot of that weight and appearance of weight around her neck and her body and her thyroid was related to poor digestion and food allergies. And we identified it was gluten and I think almond. It's just two things, right? But immediately within 2 weeks, she looked like she lost 10 pounds of weight here. So really importantly, if you're really thinking about weight, I would definitely make sure that we just did a hormone takedown and I did an amazing training in that. I think I sent it out, but if you're interested in seeing, I actually have a lot of videos around hormones, but if you want more information around hormones and weight, type that in chat and our team will get some resources with you. By the way, I have an allergy protocol. Everything that I just said about some of these supplements, I have in a printed booklet called the Allergy Protocol. It's Dr. Maggie's Allergy Protocol. Who would like the allergy protocol? I would love for you to write allergy protocol in chat. There are directions, there's explanations of product, there are links. Who would like the allergy protocol? Type allergy protocol in chat. And we may even have a link for you to go and just download it. Okay. I have a free download for allergy protocol. Who wants that? And then everything I'm discussing here is in our allergy collection. And there's a link to go to the MYMD shop to check out the allergy collection. All these products I mentioned are there. And specifically, I went through and trained you on why for each one. And I'm not talking about 30 products here. I talked about 5. Okay. And then someone, Joni mentioned methylation. That was the answer about MTHFR. And then, Lori says, will these help with gastroparesis, bloating when I eat? Yes, yes, and hell yes. Gastroparesis is actually, again, idiopathic, but it's actually related with autoimmune attack against the smooth muscle in the gut. You're never going to hear someone else tell you that either, Lori. And so it's autoimmune and bloating after eating, digestion, right? So why wouldn't this benefit from taking Digested to fix the digestion? Why wouldn't this benefit from Boost Me 2 in the morning and Restore Me 2 at night, right? And so really, really, absolutely, these, when I work with someone gastroparesis and bloating, the first thing I do is start them on the daily reset, Lori. So great question. I have MTHFR. Can I take Boost Me? Yes, yes, and hell yes. Formulated for MTHFR. I'm all the MTHFR. So totally get it. It was formulated for MTHFR, just so you know. Again, somebody could be allergic to one thing or whatever, but you don't know until you try. But at the same time, for me, very importantly, because I do deal with the histamine population, I am a very histamine aware physician, functional physician. So it is so important to me that I know it's MTHFR. They may not out there. And I can't believe the kind of supplements people are selling to people with autoimmune disease, hormone problems, and histamines. And it really is like, you should not be taking that with some of these underlying genetic issues that I'm aware of. So Smarty Pants over here, thank you. Yes, I have thought about all of these pieces, right? How many Boost Me and when? Boost Me is 2 in the morning. When you go to the Daily Reset bundle, when you go over there and visit it, there's instructions too on how to take them. When you get the Daily Reset, there's also reminders, there's messages, there's short little videos with reminders and things from me that actually tells you how to use the product, why, how, all that, tips and hints, my hack for this or that. So that's part of the Daily Reset, just so you know. What is Jackie said? What is the minimum age to take these? It's really the age of swallowing. So for me, it's usually 10 years or older. Anybody 10 years and older should be on these at the products at the doses that I recommend. Okay. Someone said about chronic pain. Cynthia said, I often have left leg weakness and pain. That's nerve and muscle. Is histamines the culprit? It's one of the culprits, but there are other culprits. Knowing Cynthia, some of the things that she has said in chat before, there's probably an autoimmune component to this. There's definitely going to be a digestion and a hormonal component to this. So histamine is part of the problem. It's not the one and only problem, but it's part of the picture. And it's strange to me that people go work with providers on, let's say, their chronic pain doctor, and their doctor, and maybe even a functional doctor, really has no awareness about the role of histamines and digestion, for example, the role of histamines and the specific type of magnesium. So there's so many opportunities that are missed. And sometimes with the best of intention, they do something opposite to what a person needs. So it's important to take all these pieces into the picture. Okay. Jackie, I sometimes eat strawberries and drink milk. I feel weird. I haven't really felt that way recently. Should I still take the allergy pill? Really depends. Again, I'm talking with known allergens. So I'm not recommending everybody takes Allergest with every single meal. Everybody should take Digestive with every meal. But Allergest is designed for people who have known allergens to those particular items and to use it. Okay, if that makes sense. If you don't know what's causing the histamine problems for you, and you must, if you know your digestion is broken, you need help, then I'm the doctor that really solves those problems for breakfast. And the best thing that you can do is reach out. We have a 360 assessment that you can take where we ask you a lot of questions and we do an evaluation, and we do a one-on-one evaluation to really take a look at what your problems really are and how we can help, So there you are, Jackie. Can I take more than 2 Digested, please? Or 2 enough? That's an average. Okay. So I work with people in all sorts of spectrum of digestion problems. And what I tell people with digested is one with small meals, two with big meals. But everybody knows when I actually work with people in person in our programs, there's going to be adjustments depending on feedback from your body, right? For some people, they need three. For some people, all they need is one with each meal. But the average is like one with small meals, two with big meals. But it's always good when you first start to start with just one that first day with the meal and see how you do. Next day, you may want to take another one with another meal. So you kind of want to work up to it. Anytime we introduce supplements, we want to do one pill extra per day so that there's a workup process, right? That's the best way to take supplementation. Okay. Perfect. I answered all the questions. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway is. Can you tell me one thing you learned today? That was awesomeness. That was new. Because I can tell you that a lot of what I've said here is my perspective, my experience, and it is based on the latest research. So, and physicians just are not educated on the latest research mechanisms or have the insight around how these pieces fit together. So I hope that there was something new that you learned today, or I hope there was a lot. Jill, Dr. Maggie, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you, Jill. Thank you so much. Yeah, what's one of the biggest things that you guys learned today? I would love it if you could blow me up and chat with that. Now, here's the other thing. If there's somebody that you know, you may not be the person with histamine problems, autoimmune problems, POTS, or fibro, but you may know somebody who is, and you heard something that they know they need to hear. So I have one ask, which is click the share button. Click the share button right now and share it with somebody. Okay. And if you're watching this on YouTube, which I hope you are, make sure you subscribe to the channel. The data shows me that only 15% of you watching are actually subscribed to my channel. So I can't tell you when I'm live next. I can't tell you when there's a hot topic or one of your questions that came up that I'm going to answer on the next live. So help me out. If you can click subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Apparently also on mobile on YouTube, there's a hype button, HYPE. Did I spell that right? And if you press the hype button, if it's on your phone right now, it tells YouTube that more people need to see this video. So if you can do that right now, everybody on their phones, if you see the hype button, put hype and tell me you put hype in the chat, because I don't know if it's showing up on people's phones or not. This is a new YouTube feature, and I want to know how many of you actually see it on your phones. That'd be super helpful. Rick, you wanted more dysautonomia insight. I love it. Oh my gosh, Rick, just so you know, I have tons of trainings on POTS dysautonomia. I am Dr. POTS. So if you want more information for that, just our team will reach out to you and get you signed up to get some information, because I just recently did a great training around POTS and dysautonomia. Right? Tinnitus is a histamine problem, Cynthia. Hell yes. It's a histamine, digestion, and food problem, and hormones, Cynthia. Rebecca said hormones and weight loss. I love this. Star Bliss said, yes, hopefully this can be hyped. Do you guys actually see hyped in under the video on YouTube? I'm so curious, because I just learned about that today from another YouTube creator, that this feature just showed up this morning. And then Jackie says, what can we do to get a hold of you for treatment? Great question. There's a link right now for a 360 evaluation. When someone wants to learn more about us, we want to learn more about you first. I can't help you by, seeing what's going on the chat specifically to your case. So what I want to do is I want to ask a bunch of questions so I can learn more about you. That's what we do on a 360 evaluation. The link is in chat. When you click that, it's going to take you to a page, and you're going to, do the evaluation. You're going to pick a time on the calendar, and a health coach from our team is going to do a one-on-one assessment to evaluate your case. So that's how you work with me, Jackie. Great question. Thank you so much. And then Flavio says, please send me information about program for long haul tinnitus, mast cell, and histamines. Oh, thank you, Flavio. Lana says, I have tinnitus too. Yeah, a lot of people don't know what tinnitus is. Should I do a live on tinnitus? You don't see hype on your phone. Oh, that sucks. Maybe it's just they're testing it, beta testing it for some people. Troy, Maggie's the best, Godson. Troy, I see you on the calendar for later. I think Friday. Can't wait to talk to you. Can't wait to talk to you. Our team's prepared to talk to you. So excited. I've been seeing you under my lives for a long time, dude. It's time. All right, everyone, that is a wrap. And I have, oh, here we go. So hope to see you guys next week on my live next week. This was so much fun. I hope you like this format. It is a very relaxed teach and learn and then a Q&A. I hope you enjoyed that. And there was a huge supplement training here. If you love more supplement training, tell me in chat. The reason I've been focusing more on that is because people have asked me, can you please teach me about supplementation? Because I'm sure as heck not getting that anywhere else. So yeah, happy to do that, but let me know that's what you want. Okay. Appreciate it. Have a ball, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Thank you. And I'm off to LA to see my daughter tomorrow. And today I'm sporting a bright red lipstick. Tell me it's a yay, it's a nay. Is it yes to the red? Bye, everybody.